Well, this is my latest addition to the cabin, if you can make out what that is. It's a rather crudely constructed bird table. I looked for bird tables for years and couldn't find one that I could buy around here anywhere. So last year, with leftover materials that I had from building the chicken coop, I built myself one and put it out in front of my house. By far the best bird feeder I've ever had, for several reasons. We have a lot of blue jays here. I like to feed them along with the other birds, but they really like to throw a lot of stuff away. If you put mixed feed in a hanging bird feeder, the blue jays will just keep throwing it on the ground looking for either corn or sunflower seeds. Probably their favorite is sunflower seeds. Whereas if you spread it on the floor of a bird table and spread it out, they just light like any other bird and pick up a sunflower seed or a piece of corn and fly off. I found a great variety of birds use it, and every day when I put out more bird seed, I just sweep off with my hand the seed that's remaining from the previous day onto the ground. And there are a lot of ground feeding birds that come and pick that up. Mostly around here it's the mourning doves, large flocks of mourning doves under the feeder. So I really like the feeder. This is, I don't know, maybe a little bit better improvement on the design that I did last year, in that this one, the roof is bigger than the table surface. They were both the same size in the one that I used last year, so things tended to get wet in a rainstorm and more snow got in there. I'm hoping with a bit of an overhang that will solve that problem. However, I don't have any bird seed yet, so I will be purchasing some this afternoon, and I just cleaned the windows in the cabin. So if I set this video camera up on a tripod inside the cabin, hopefully I'll be able to film birds feeding at the bird feeder here. Yesterday I spent most of the day in the cabin reading and having a nice fire with the bio bricks. I guess if you've watched my videos, you've seen that video by now. But there were a lot of blue jays and sparrows and whatever flying around outside the cabin in the trees, so I'm thinking it probably won't take them long if they're the same birds that use my feeder up at the house. Usually by the time I put feed in it, within 4 or 5 hours in the fall, the birds are back. I don't feed during the summer, just the late fall and winter. I think birds should be on their own in the summer, I guess. Anyway, we'll show you what happens later on with some bird seed. Sorry about the hissing noise in the background. I'm in the cabin and this shot is being taken out one of the windows at the bird table. I just came back with the bird seed and put some seed on the table, but I forgot to mention, I guess earlier in my little clip on this table, I painted the table and the roof, not for aesthetic reasons, but because it's made out of a leftover partial sheet of particle board that I used for the subfloor here in the cabin, and that stuff blows up and turns to chips and sawdust when it gets wet. So I was hoping that if I painted it a couple of coats of paint, I used the same gray paint that I used on the floor here in the cabin, that I might get a year or two out of it before it has to be replaced. Anyway, I didn't have to buy anything. It was a scrap that was left over. The noise that you hear in the background is the Coleman gas lantern, the propane lantern. I have it set up in here because I want to do, that's too bright to look at or not, I'm going to attempt a little cooking in the stove, so I thought I'd do a video along with it. I have a fire going in the stove, going now for a bit. I started it before I went to the store to get the bird seed, and anyway, in a few minutes here I'll show you what I'm going to try to cook and how I plan to do it. Bird feeder set up in time. We had one of these showers when I was up getting the bird seed, but we're getting another downpour. They seem to be coming in waves this afternoon. When I had a wood fire out here yesterday, I tried the little Coleman oven on top of the stove, and at least with the size fire that I had yesterday, I wasn't able to get enough heat inside that little Coleman oven to use it. I don't know if that'll be any different later this winter when I can build stronger fires, more heat or not. Looks to me like I might be using that on my rocket stove rather than here in the cabin. But I had another idea. I'm going to put the fire at the back of the wood stove as much as possible, and in the front of the stove I'm going to put a potato in foil, potato and onion and olive oil, salt, pepper, that sort of thing, and hopefully there's enough heat inside of there to roast the potato. Time will tell. Anyway, I'll cut this up and assemble it and put it in the oven and see what happens. I washed the potato before I left the house. This is the first time I've used these cheap knives that I bought. At least you can cut a potato with it, I guess. I have another full roll of foil at the house, but I think there's enough left in this one to do what I want to do. Hopefully there is enough. Stuck to the roll with glue. That will be like on my potato. I'll use the other side, I guess. Scatter that in there. Nice black pepper. Bit of sea salt. Maybe olive oil. I don't think that is enough foil, so I'm going to go up to the house and bring out the other package of foil rather than put that in the oven and destroy it. But anyway, I'll come back when we're ready to put it in the other package of foil out. Put a couple of layers down here. Try to keep the potato from burning, but hope it cooks. That is the main thing here. There's a little package ready for the oven as soon as the oven or stove rather is ready for it. Well, the plan is to shove the ash back off the fire bricks. The stove is lined with fire bricks. There's the ash shoved back, and I have two of the bio bricks burning in there. I'll set the potato in as close to the heat as I can. Close it up and see what happens, I guess. I'm going to leave it for at least an hour because I don't think it's all that hot in there, but we'll see what happens. An hour since I put them in there. I have turned them around a couple of times. Take them out and see if it's cooked at all or needs more cooking. Smells good. Not quite done, I don't think. But mash on the plate here. Yeah. It's a little underdone. Good though. I think I'll just put it back in for another 10 or 15 minutes. It's almost cooked, but not quite. Well, that did it. They're very well cooked now. If I can get the camera to stop shaking around here. I just drizzled some of the oil that they were cooking in over them. It's a very large potato, and I put in a few little slices here, but I wish you could smell it. They smell very good. Mouthful, and they taste very good too. Well, we'll see how the biscuits turn out in a few minutes. I just came out to the cabin, thought I'd start a fire, and the sun is supposed to come out later today, that maybe I would be able to get a video of some birds at the new bird table. Didn't look to me like anything had been there yet. The seeds, especially the sunflower seeds, they're the first ones to go. There are still lots of them there. Lots of birds singing in the trees around, so I thought it won't be long. I came in the cabin and started to light the fire, turned around, looked out the window, and there was a male cardinal sitting there in amongst the seeds picking out something. Of course, by the time I got the camera set up, he had been spooked and flew away. They're not a rare bird. They're a rare bird in this area. They're a common songbird in North America, northeastern America anyway. I think we only really see them here when they're migrating through spring and fall, going north in the spring and going down south in the fall. I have had some people tell me that they have them at their feeder all winter, but where I live I only see them on occasion. Anyway, he was a beautiful thing. I hope I get another chance to take a picture of him. Just moving behind the window here to set up the camera, and he got a glimpse of me and flew away, so time will tell if he comes back or not, I guess. For those of you that aren't familiar with North American birds, that's a blue jay. To add insult to injury, I got the fire started out here and had to go back over to the house for a couple of things. And in the pathway that leads over to my house, I saw two cardinals, the male cardinal and his mate. They still haven't come back to the feeder yet. I have hopes of getting a look at them. The blue jays have discovered it. Doesn't take them long. They're known for being quite greedy. They fill their crop or their throat full before they leave, and they go off and just hide it somewhere and come back for more. I don't know if they ever find the stuff that they hide or not. Well, I'm going to stoke the fire up and settle down to read here, and hopefully before the afternoon is out I'll get to show you a little clip of the cardinals. Thankfully, most of the blue jays migrate out of here before winter really sets in. Right now I think I've got about a half dozen of them coming in rotation, filling up their crops with as much as they can possibly stuff into themselves before they leave. Having my usual luck though with filming anything that's a bit unusual. I had a male flicker or yellowhammer, they go by the same name, type of woodpecker in the area here. It just stayed there briefly, and of course by the time I got over to turn the camera on, it was gone again. There's the yellow hammer. I don't know if it'll come back or not. There it comes. I think it's a male yellow hammer. Unfortunately, can't see the back of it. It has a nice red spot on the back of its head. And here's another greedy blue jay. There's the yellow hammer. The back, you can see the back of his head. Oh, good heavens, and there's an evening grosbeak. I don't think I ever had so many different kinds of birds at a feeder the first day I put it out. Must be a nice location here with the trees all around, I guess. Evening grosbeaks also, we see them mostly when they're migrating through here, so it must be the time of year, the reason I'm seeing so many different kinds of birds. I almost think that's a female, or one of this year's immature birds. And there's the yellow hammer back with him. Blue jays are starting to get nasty there, driving off the other birds. I think, whoops, it hasn't come down yet, but just, there was a nuthatch just came across from the tree and lit up on the roof here. They don't generally like to be around when the blue jays are right there, so he may come down in a minute. There's the yellow hammer back. There, that's a nuthatch. I still would like to see the cardinal. Once I saw the nuthatch, I thought the chickadees wouldn't be far away. That little bird that we just caught a glimpse of. That's a nuthatch again there, but the one just prior to that was a black-capped chickadee. Probably the most common songbird at my feeders. I can see him over in a birch tree, finishing off the sunflower that he just got. It's the nuthatch again. Here comes the chickadee. It'll stay very long, just long enough to grab a seed and leave. Smoke that you see drifting down by is just the wind baffling the smoke down into the yard out in front of the cabin. don't know if I've ever had this kind of variety before in such a short period of time, especially for a new feeder just set up. They haven't come up to the feeder yet, but on the ground, hopping over closer to it, are some dark-eyed juncos, and they're around all winter. My father used to tell me that when they cut wood in the woods in the wintertime, they would make a small fire to have tea, and that always brought the birds, so I'm kind of wondering if my smoke from the fire here isn't bringing them. That's a dove, mourning dove. And that is a dark-eyed junco close to her. Smaller bird there. Well, I'll bore you stiff with all these bird pictures, but I'm fascinated at how quickly they found the feeder and the great variety of birds that have shown up on the very first day. Oops, it flew. The little bird to the left that I was going to point out there was an American goldfinch. I think probably a male. They lose their bright plumage in the wintertime. In summer the male is a canary yellow and the female stays a olive color. I was just thinking, who needs television? I could sit here and watch this all day long. Fire has warmed the cabin up nicely. I'm reading my book, and every time I turn around there's a different kind of bird at the feeder. That's another one of the mourning doves sitting over there on that sawhorse. Well, I won't continue to bore you to death with all these bird sightings here, but thank you very much for watching.